Okay, we're at the back entrance, and immediately this strikes me as a later addition to do something to access the ground, to floor here. I mean, why would you create this messy situation? So the floor level is here. If I go under here and check this out, see, you've got a window essentially at walk-in level. Now they've done that trick of turning this into a door and saying this is what they always planned, but as we saw with Letton Hall, it doesn't make sense. This is clearly cladding. I believe this is cladding, and this probably is a later Victorian window. But you see how the cladding here is not actually part of the original building. This is just a facade. Just a facade. Let me give you a zoom if you're not sure. Look at that. So this is a clad. This is put on top of the original Tarrarian red brick structure that's sitting beneath us. And if you could go back to my old channel and see the beautiful footage I got of Letton Hall, you know what I mean. So a little bit more of the this couldn't be a mud flood for those people who still believe their masters. Yeah, this is the coal bunker, mate. They still keep their coal down here. That's why they got this grotty, wet, manky, beautiful window. Grotty, wet, manky. And actually, see, I have to ask the question, is this brickwork original or is this also clad? It's a tough one for me. I think that's original, but the window is recessed into it. Same here, look at that. You know, and then you've got, you know, what Sven and I were looking at when we were looking in Bournemouth at all those bridges that they create over the that's the bridge going underneath here, to create this new stairwell into this rather tatty looking front door. So this is concrete. This is poured concrete sections. More of this ugliness down here. Oh, it's for the servants, the slaves. You remember that place in Bath I went to where the only way that the master could get, what's it called, the Golden Royal Circle, Royal Crescent? The only way that the master could get to his garden would be to go through the slaves' quarters, if you believe that story. So we've got a bit of sunlight on this side. So this whole level here is bringing you to the floor level, which is the same as the windows, but hiding all of this monstrosity underneath. Give you a little zoom in there. So it's, and as you can see, I mean, from the walls, it's so manky, it's so wet. There's guttering down in here. Look at that. Guttering. Because it's so much water. There's a door there. See that? For the slaves. Okay, fascinating. We'll keep walking around the front here, and as you can see there, they've got some kind of thing down in there. But yeah, I mean, why do that to yourself? Why create this unnecessary half step and then bedrooms with floors? You can check there's a little chain here that suggests I'm supposed to step over it. But as you can see, the floor level is up here now. So is this a made up floor level? This or... Oh, this is hot. Wow, look at the drop here. I would not jump down that. That's 10 foot. 10 foot of back building. Okay, let's go a different way. Dot. Come on, go. Okay. What? Back cam? Yeah, so this lump here, where it would have been excavated out, this slope here, because the dirt level, the mud level, the settlement from above would have been to here, and then they've cut this down. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, it's a bit eerie down here and wet. How do they keep it dry? Hi.
Well, we don't really.
It's hard to keep dry, eh?
Yeah, it's really
Do you ever wonder why they built it like that, underground? No?
It was just the servants' area.
Servants area. I was just in Bath a little while ago, and you know the Royal Crescent in Bath?
Yeah.
Very famous. And I met a lady who lives there on the ground floor, and she
Right.
said, I have to come outside to have a fag in the mornings because I can't get to the gardens at the back. The only way to get to the gardens is through the basement,
Oh.
through that,
Right.
which is interesting. All of those 30 apartments there have the same problem.
Yeah.
So the question is, why would the owner, the master of the house, build a situation where he would have to go past his servants in the morning to get to his garden?
No, that's unusual.
But this is what I see. I go around the world studying these buildings, and I've found a lot of that. So I research a subject area which you may not have heard of. It's called Mudflood. Yeah. So we believe that these buildings predate, say, the 1600s,
Right.
1700s. All of them were subject to like a Noah's flood event, where we had some kind of settlement of mud.
Right.
So when this building was originally recovered, the dirt here would have had to be dug out because the dirt would have been at this level here.
Yeah.
And they had to dig this back down again in order to get through to this door.
Yeah.
And the doors that you find in here, I stayed in a stately home called Letton Hall in Norfolk.
Right.
There, I went into the basement and I found window frames and door frames opening into the mud, opening into the ground, just like this would be if they hadn't built this, because this has been built after. This is not original.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the water's just seeping through here. It's a mess, hey? So this was built by the people who reclaimed this building so that they could gain access to
No.
the downstairs.
No.
You don't agree?
It was added on in about 1850
Okay,
by the family who lived here.
okay. Well, that's what we think
But
that
the basement was already here. It was just the terrace.
Ah, yeah,
Was
yeah, yeah.
added,
No, well, I would offer to you, just as a thought, is that this basement was originally the ground floor. And that when we came back, all of this dirt was here, and we had to, in order to get access to these windows, because it's kind of weird to have windows at the same level as the floor, right? That's kind of unusual to put your windows. I know I see a lot of it. No, no, yeah, well, I see quite a lot of this where the window and the floor are at the same level, but normally in the real world, we would have a window at belly button level, so that when you look out of your window, you know, you're not putting the windows to the floor.
Yeah, but these windows are not original. They were originally sash windows.
Oh,
So they would have
these have been put in afterwards, yeah. So,
after the terrace, so that they made them into doors. so
okay,
that you could go
okay,
out.
yeah, because again, I mean, the terrace is a later addition.
Yeah.
If you know the TV show Downton Abbey,
Yeah.
I don't expect you to believe anything I'm telling you, but if you go and look at the floor plan of Downton Abbey,
Yeah.
you'll find that the basement is far grander than the first floor or the ground floor now. And I believe that basement was originally the ground floor with all grand rooms and ballrooms and so on. When you go into buildings like this, the floor levels are all over the place. The rooms are a little bit pokey. They don't make sense for a place that's as beautiful and as grand as this. I even offer to you that this cladding on the outside here is not the original. It's not part of the original roof building. That this is covering red brick. Do you ever see red brick inside when you go around inside here? No. Well, I think that this is that. Like when you look at, maybe not this window, but I was around the other side, and when you look at the cladding up into the window frame, you'll find that it's actually not even attached to the window frame. It is, as you said, it isn't. The windows are like an after effect or an aftermarket addition to this place. But this, I think, was a retrofit in order to regain access to the underfloor. And all of this moisture, you see, when these were built, there was no such thing as plastic. There was no such thing to prevent water from ingressing. I've looked at buildings in Mayfair and Chelsea and places like that in London, and all of those people who have their downstairs basements, they have water problems. They're having to suck out water all of the time. Now, people that are clever enough to build like this would know that. they wouldn't put their buildings underwater, that they were going to have to forever be dealing with the incoming water. You would, if I asked you to build a place, you'd go, oh, I'll build it from the ground up. Don't ask me to build 10 feet into the ground and then put my foundations 5 feet beneath that. That's a lot of additional work. So I just offered you, I don't expect you to believe anything I say, but if you type in the search Mudflood, Tartaria into your search engine and just go and look at the information. Go and look at it, look at all these buildings, because around the world we've got buildings just like this where you've got these very strange after effects from the original building, you know. Because if you think about it, if they hadn't built this, then the door that you just walked out of would have been in the mud. Right? If I didn't come here and then dig a hole and then put all of this concrete in 1850, as you said, then that door that you just white door that you walked through, that would be in the mud.
That might be the case for other buildings, but I don't think it's the case here. We have had a historic building survey. We have got the original, but it was only built 200 years ago. It's not that old, and
200.
It was
really.
You know, it was built like this was original.
Wow.
And it was part of the building.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, like I'm coming in from the outside and throwing something at you that you never heard of. You know, if depending on your area of expertise, if you've gone to school and they said this is the answer to that question, then you'll accept that. And I did. I'm 54 years old. For 45 years in my life, I accepted pretty much all of this stuff. Now I say, go and check for yourself that there is this whole body of research. Tens of thousands of people around the world are looking at buildings in countries where you go, why have they got a building in South America or in middle of Africa? They got a building like this. And we're told that in the 1850s, all they had was horse and cart. You know, so just check it out. Don't shut it off for because it's, you know, not what you were taught at school. I come from South Africa. We were taught that black people were inferior. You know that's a lie, right? But what I was taught was that's true, and there's still people today in South Africa who believe that lie. So don't simply just accept it because you were taught it at school. Go and look at this.
You've got to always have an open mind, definitely.
Thank you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when open. So I'll leave you with that. Mudflood, Tartaria. Check it out. It's a fantastic subject, and it can't harm to go and look at that stuff and just kind of ask yourself that question. You know, the same as this, I'd look at things like this and go, this is not original. You know, there was something else here. In fact, there was a window here. You know that, eh? That's the window frame as you see them normally. So, you know, why have they had to brick this in? This is the sill for the window. You know, why have they had to brick that in? It's right next to you. You know, so, and this is the same, I see the same telltale kind of signs on all of these buildings. And the one that I stayed in, Arlington Hall, which was built in 1600s by the same guy who built the Bank of England. There's a whole museum to this guy. The engineer, the surveyors were there when I was living there, and they said, yeah, the roof here is only 100 years old. We've analyzed the timbers and blah 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 blah, and the roof is only 100 years old. So on that basis you could say this building is not as old as you think it is, but somewhere along the line, and everybody, the owners of it, were surprised. They were like, no, this is the original roof. No, the roof is only 100 years old, but according to the engineers. So yeah, just go home and think about this, is that if without this addition, the only way into this building would have been through the mud. You had to first of all dig out the mud like they've done here, dig out the mud and then put in this portico, this section, in order to kind of give you access. And of course it's a moisture nightmare for the owners, you know. Even Arlington Hall, it was owned by a Christian sort of thing, and they were like, we're going to have to sell this. It's costing us so much money to keep this building fresh, you know, because it's got so many problems with moisture and floor levels are all over the place. It's Tartaria and Mudflood. Keep a parachute mind. All the best. Yeah. So as you see, it's all sorts of oddities here. And this reminds me. Look, this is like Arlington Hall. And there are all sorts of... Well, I hope that little conversation was useful. If I got in there, I'll tell you what. Let's see all sorts of weirdness. all sorts of weirdness, because here's the floor level here, and then all of a sudden you've got 2 foot of floor level rise over here to get into the store. See that? Just over this little space here. Mudflood's real, man. Mudflood is real, and I think it came from above. But you see how easy it is for folks to be, oh no, we've been taught this. This is what the smarter people than me say. No, they're not smarter than you. They just believe the books. They're the ones who sucked up that book, and they're like, this is true. This is the only truth. So here we are, Arlington, eh? Arlington. The connection to the National Cemetery in America has not escaped my attention. I will try and look into that a little bit. What is the connection between the two? We shall see. All right, time to go. Now it's time to blow your mind. I've gone and looked at Arlington Cemetery, and here's the little rundown that I've got for you. It's very brief, but it is. Arlington comes about as a gift from the grandson or relative of George Washington, right? And that's interesting. So I go and look at George Washington, and I find out there's a conspiracy theory that runs that George Washington was played by a duke, the 4th Duke of Devonshire, where I am, where Arlington House is, Devon. So this is a bit of a gut punch for the Americans, because it really does prove that the colonies never won anything. It's just that the royals managed to give them a hero, give them a Musk who was going to save their ass, who became the first president of America, but was always the Duke of Devonshire. Unhappy Thanksgiving.